Welcome back, everyone. We're working on our two-column layout, and there's just one little minor adjustment I am going to make to my HTML. They put this big giant quote in a header 3, and I don't think headers should ever have that many words in them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that in the HTML from a header to a block quote. So right here is that header 3. And we're going to make it a block quote. And it is a quote from a movie, and it all relates. So this is actually a good example of when you'd use a block quote. And watch the way it styles a block quote by default. See how it's like tabbed in a little bit on both sides. Maybe a little bit later we'll add some additional styles. What our goal now is to take all this HTML, and let's just glance real quickly at the structure again, is we're going to create some layout for this. So we can style our header, we can apply some styles to the section, and we're going to take the article and the aside, and we're going to turn those into a two-column layout. That's why it's a two-column layout tutorial. That's how we're going to do it. And then we might style the footer. And so let's talk about some of the strategies we're going to use. We're going to use basically how Bootstrap does their grid system. So we're going to follow their technique. They are as follows. All right, we're going to do some strategies, both for the grid, which is going to be our layout, our columns, as well as we're going to talk about some additional styles that every web designer needs to consider for any given design on any given page. Okay, let's talk about the grid, though. What we're going to do is we're going to apply a thing called box sizing. And we're going to apply that using a universal selector. And then we're going to take our container where we want to apply the two columns. And we're going to apply a left and right-hand margin. We're going to give it a negative margin. And I'll explain in just a moment what that's like. And then taking the idea of grids, what we'll do is, in our case, we already have a class already for it. But if you want to, you can create your own system of grids like Bootstrap does. And you can give classes to help set up the grids. And then on any of the grid elements in our two columns that we're going to lay out, we're going to apply width as percentage. So it will resize as the browser resizes. And then we're going to use a 12-type system grid. And the reason why is that many web designers like to have 3 even width elements. Sometimes they want to have 2 that are even width. Sometimes they might just do like a golden mean kind of thing where we use the rule of thirds. And since thirds are very common, Bootstrap has set up a grid of 12 where each grid of the 12, each 12th of the width ends up being 8.3333%. And so we're going to use that as our sort of methodology. So if we're going to make it like a 9 by 3, that would be like 66.666% and 33.333%. We have to also float any of those left. They're all going to be floated left. Okay? And then we're going to add left and right hand padding to match the negative margins. Now, I mentioned this about box sizing. And what the box sizing is about, I'll just go ahead and show you on W3 Schools. They basically, when you set a box sizing of border box, what you're going to do is you're going to do what Internet Explorer used to do with their width. And I say Internet Explorer, that was the pariah of browsers back when I was learning web design. And it was, and that's just a fancy word for saying that everyone thought it sucked. But everyone kept using it for some strange reason. And the reason why I didn't like it was that if you set the width, you were setting the width around the padding and the border, and all other browsers set it just as the width of the content. Well, the interesting thing is what Bootstrap does is they actually make it behave like the old Internet Explorer. And actually, it allows us to do your grids and add percentages and never have to worry about whether we're adding padding or borders. And that's actually a good thing. So we're actually going to apply it. And we're going to emulate the old IE. Is that just a sad statement or what? I don't know. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. And then this is what we're going to focus on this video. And then on the next one, we'll talk about some additional styles. So you should add typography. You should add a nav bar. I recommend we do it a horizontal nav bar, some background images, and other styles like that. But for today, we're going to focus on the grid. And without further ado, let's get doing it. First things first, we do not need a style tag anymore. Get rid of the style tag. Bad, bad form. We are going to link to a style sheet. Link tag, link href equals, and we're going to write layout.css because we're dealing with layouts. You also need to add what's called the rel, or relationship attribute. We're saying, what is the relationship of this file? Well, it is a style, not title, style sheet. It is a self-closing tag. That's the name of the file. So what we're going to have to do is create a file called layout. Once you have your link, I'm moving this over a little bit. And now that I know it's layout.css, I'm going to do file new, and I'm going to move this to the other view. And let's get back to template here. I want to have this open as a reference. And so I'll close these so that you can sort of see what's going on there. And this is where we're going to do our layout. So let's just create a comment. It's layout.css. We need to save this to the same folder. It's the reason why I copied it right out of there. See, there's my folder. I'm just going to paste over that layout.css. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to add a thing called the universal selector. It is a star. You might have seen this on some style sheets before. What the universal selector does is it changes everything. Everything. Every single tag that can be displayed gets affected by it. This is a really weird selector. Do not use it unless you know that you're using a good practice for it. Because the problem with it, let's say, for example, I were to set a font size of, I don't know, a font size of 14 pixels. Everything gets changed, and there is no more cascading effect. So you would have to, like, anything you wanted to change to fix what you did with the universal selector, you have to go in and change it. So this is not something you use lightly. And so it's box sizing. Well, let me make sure I got it right. Border box. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. This is a CSS3 type selector. You may need to do, you might want to test this on other browsers. You may need to add a vendor prefix. It would look something like this. WebKit, box sizing. And the vendor prefix stands for the browser you're using. This actually will target not only Chrome, but Safari browsers. And you'd put MOZ for Mozilla if it's not working. Anyway, that's your, this is adding, that basically setting the width. And then next step, okay, I just added my comment as to what we're doing there so you could see that. And let's center the text. We're going to do that by centering the wrapper. That's that section. And I'm going to go ahead and target the section that has a class of wrapper on it. I can't just target section because there's multiple sections. I could just target by class if I wanted, and that would be equally okay. As long as you don't apply a class of wrapper anywhere else, you'll be good. And so on here, we're going to go ahead and set the width. Let's just set it at like a 900 pixel width for now. And then what we're going to do, we're going to center this. We're going to center it. We're going to start by having no margin on the top or the bottom. And then we're going to make the left and right hand margins automatic. And so that will center everything. Let's save our changes. Let's see if everything, I got to save my changes here. Let's see if that's working. And there it is. You see the nice gap on the left, and you scroll down, and there's a gap on the right. We now know it's centered. Okay, now let's go ahead and style our two-column layout. We're going to make it an 8x4. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to start by targeting the section with the class of page. Oh, I forgot to finish my comment there. Section.page. All right, in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to set a margin left and a margin right. And Bootstrap does a negative 15 pixel margin. It's not a bad idea. You can set it different units. You can give it a different size. It's really up to you. But we're going to give it negative margins. And what that does is it's going to pull it closer to the sides. And we're going to add padding to sort of offset that. Okay, so then let's, what we're going to do is we need to, both the article and the aside are going to be floated to the left, and they are both going to have a padding left and a padding right of 15 pixels. So let's target both in one declaration. So article.main, comma, aside.sidebar, like so. And so we float them both to the left. And then we're going to add a padding left of 15 pixels and a padding right of 15 pixels. If you want to add padding to the top and bottom, that is your choice. You may very well decide to do so. Okay. Remember, these article and aside are going to have content inside of them. So I'm not so concerned at this point about adding extra padding. We can add it to our elements that are inside if we want. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to set the width on each of the columns. We're going to make this 8 by 4. So the article.main, we're going to set the width at 66 point, I don't know, about 4 or 5 sixes like so. And then we're going to do aside.sidebar and 33 point whatever. I matched the number of the precision of the decimal points. So that's 5 there, and there's 5 there. You can kind of tell because this font is mono-spaced, so that it comes out to the same. Save our changes, and let's see if that's working. Hit refresh, and bam, there it is. Now, if you do not use box sizing, watch what happens. It doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work when we don't have box sizing is because the padding now counts against or in addition to the width. So we're talking an additional 60 pixels. And our widths don't work that way. That's why we had the box sizing. So you've got to have the box sizing or this technique will not work. Okay, we go back, hit refresh. There we got it. The only other thing is because these items are floated, I want to make sure this footer is cleared of all floats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clear it now. And I'm going to target it by class footer main because you may have additional footers. And then it's clear both. So this will clear any floats. And basically, this is the full code for how to do our 2-column layout. Now I've cloned it to both views. So on the left-hand side is the top lines 1 through 22. And then we have lines 10 through 31. So there's an overlap. You'll note create our 2-column layout. So we have some code here and some, so be careful there. But that's really the code we need to do a layout. In the next video, we're going to talk about adding some colors, background colors, images, things like that.